Welcome to Jesus Changes Everything, a daily podcast dedicated to providing a fresh look at the ancient and glorious truth that Jesus not only reigns, but is busy about the business of bringing all things under subjection, that celebrates the wonder and the glory that he has been given all authority in heaven and on earth. I was speaking with a gentleman earlier today who described me as having an entrepreneurial spirit. And I thought about what he was saying, and I said to him, well, there's at least two ways to look at that. You can look at an entrepreneurial spirit as someone who has the capacity to see opportunity in the marketplace and the ability to seize that opportunity and grow. There's a big difference between joining an existing industry and simply trying to do what's already been done better and cheaper, and inventing something. Doesn't even have to be a physical invention, but a whole new way of doing things. That's much more entrepreneurial. The other way I could define the term is that an entrepreneur is someone who has to be the chief cook and bottle washer. He's the only one there is. He's the one who's putting in the hours. Now, I mention all this because I confess to him, I don't think I am that person in the first instance. I may be that person in the second instance. I obviously have not invented the concept of podcasting by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know that I've invented the concept of just about anything. I do want to say this, however, that I am the chief cook and bottle washer. That is, I'm the one who not only speaks, I'm the one who plans what should be said. I'm the one who manages the board, if you will, in recording. I'm the one who edits. I'm the one who slices and dices and puts the show together. I'm the one that writes the marketing copy for it. I do pretty much everything. But there's a lot of other little things that I find myself in God's providence doing that I'm glad to be doing, grateful to be doing, but that are not entrepreneurial in the sense that I'm growing a great big company. And here's what I mean. I have a friend, a precious friend, who right now is in a place called the Lighthouse Recovery Center. This Lighthouse Recovery Center is a ministry here in Fort Wayne that takes in people who are having substance abuse issues and helps them with a biblical program that I'm very much in favor of. And this dear friend is there because he needs the help, and because in God's providence and because of our friendship, he reached out to me and we started having some conversation, and I put the two together and I said, hey, why don't you do this? And had found myself regularly, daily, speaking with this friend and encouraging this. And I just feel like $1 million. I'm excited, actually. My family's going over there tonight to see him and to participate in an event that's going on there. I mean, I'm really excited to have been a help and to continue to be a help. I've got another friend, though. The very day that my friend showed up in town to go to this recovery center, a second friend sent me a message saying that his wife of many years was leaving him, and he was looking for prayer and any wisdom and insight. I have a call coming later on today from someone who wants to talk about the delicate issue of, how do I honor the elders in my church when I'm sort of on the opposite side of them with respect to vaccines and masks and meetings and whatnot. So I get these opportunities to minister to people, to try to speak wisdom into people's lives, but you can't, I don't set up a stand like Lucy Van Pelt with a coin, that I give counsel for 5 cents. But I am wanting and grateful to be able to serve the kingdom. That's really what I'm trying to do with the podcast as well. Now, I mention all this because, sadly, you have stumbled into the appeal segment of this week's Jesus Changes Everything shows. I'm asking for continued support. I've mentioned in the last few weeks about our GoFundMe. It is still up. It is still about a third of the way where we would like it to be. That is not tax deductible, but you can always give at rcsproulJR.com. There's a donate button, and those donations go to Dunamis Fellowship, which is the parent company of, or parent organization, if you will, of this podcast and so much of what we do, and that is tax deductible. So we would love to have you come alongside us. There's so many little informal, non-institutional, organic things that we can do that can, at the end of the day, take up your day and not provide for your family, but that you want to be able to be there. You want to have those margins so that you can be a help in this way. So if you have margins to help, would you prayerfully consider helping us as we seek to help others? Would you prayerfully consider being a monthly donor to the work of Jesus Changes Everything and Dunamis Fellowship? Would you consider praying for us? Would you consider, as always, spreading the word about the podcast? Get the word out and share it with your friends and help us to grow. That's what I'm asking for this week, and I will ask that you would pray for these 2 friends, or actually 3 friends now, who have been reaching out to me of late, that I would be faithful and helpful, and that they would have God's grace actively at work in their lives. Thanks so much. What is inflation? On today's Ask RC segment, I'd like to give a brief, but I pray clear and helpful response to that particular question, as it's an issue that's very much on people's minds. And I would argue that this is not merely a policy issue, but it's a biblical issue. When I was a boy, my grandfather, he had his own theory of what inflation was. In fact, it was normal for us, for all of us during those times. This would have been in the Jimmy Carter era, to define, it still happens today, to define inflation by an increase in the prices of things that we buy. Inflation, we think, is an increase in prices in the things that we buy. And this is what my grandfather would say. Well, this is how it happens, he says. There's the plumber, and the plumber decides that he would like, in addition to his home and his car, he would like to have a fishing boat because he enjoys fishing so much. And so in order to get a fishing boat, he decides that he's going to have to raise his prices as a plumber. So he raises his prices as a plumber, and then the tailor has a leak in his house, and he hires the plumber, and the plumber charges more than he had in the past. And so the tailor, having to find more money to pay the plumber, raises his price on the suits that he sells. And when he sells a suit and someone comes to buy it and it costs more than what they were used to, then the butcher goes home and raises the prices on his meat. And this sort of vicious cycle just goes round and round, and everybody ends up having to pay higher prices. Now that, friends, is really, really bad economic understanding. That is not how things happen. One of the things that it misses is that there is a finite amount of goods and services out there, and however high a number it may be, there's a finite amount of money out there chasing after them. The people don't just raise their prices because they want more. The people aren't stuck using the plumber that wants the boat. They can always call the plumber that doesn't want a boat and do it for less. So all of that, again, that notion is ridiculous. What inflation actually is not an inflating of prices, but it's an inflating of the money supply. Think of it this way. Imagine you have a tiny little country. I call it the country of economic illustrations. And in this country, the entire economy, all that is produced, is 10 loaves of bread. And in this economy, there are $10, 10 units of money. You can pretty well figure out that each loaf of bread is going to cost $1, right? There's 10 loaves of bread, $10. Each loaf of bread is going to be $1 because there's nothing else you can buy or sell in this mythical country. Now, let's suppose that in this mythical country, the country of economic illustrations, John Maynard Keynes hops in his Gulfstream and flies over this country and drops down $10 more. And for a moment, everybody's thinking, hey, we're rich. This is wonderful. Look at this. Now there's $20 in the land of economic illustrations, and there's 10 loaves of bread. How much is a loaf of bread going to cost? Well, $2. Exactly right. Nobody's gotten any wealthier because those paper units, they don't make anybody wealthier. If the government tomorrow said, okay, everybody's allowed to add 10 zeros to all their dollar bills, are we all going to be that much richer? We're not going to be richer at all because wealth is stuff, not units of measurement. We're experiencing the inflation that we are right now because the federal government, in cahoots with the Federal Reserve, which is not federal and has no reserves, it is creating new money out of the blue, which is not new wealth. It actually simply diminishes the value of the money that people are holding, which is what causes prices to rise. You've got more dollars chasing the same amount of goods and services. Now you may think, hey, what's the big deal with if it was 10 loaves of bread and $10 and $1 a loaf, and now it's $20 and 10 loaves and it's $2 a loaf, no harm, no foul, right? Well, what if you were living in the land of economic illustrations and you were saving your money? You were saving for a rainy day. Hey, it's winter coming. I better have some money set aside to make sure I can buy some bread. So you put $2 in the bank. That $2 is looking to you, as it should, as 2 loaves of bread coming down the pike eventually. And then when John Maynard Keynes flies his Gulfstream over the land of economic illustrations and drops those 10 extra dollars, now the promise of 2 loaves of bread in the bank has become what? 1 loaf of bread. Now imagine that your neighbor borrowed money from you. He borrowed $1 and he gives you back $1. Now what? You just lost 50 cents. This deflating of the money supply, this is unjust weights and measures. This is dross in our silver. This is what the Bible's talking about when it talks about cheating people. So, the government can't create wealth. It can print paper, but paper's not wealth. And at the end of the day, God will not be mocked. So what is inflation? Inflation is the increase in the supply of money, not an increase in wealth, nor an increase in prices. One last thing. If you're interested in this stuff, let me recommend a couple of resources. One is my book, Biblical Economics. You can try to hunt that down on Amazon. The other is a video series that I did with my dear friend Thomas Purifoy in Compass Cinema called Economics for Everybody. I think it's terrific, and mostly because Tom is terrific. So check out Economics for Everybody or my book, Biblical Economics, if you have more interest in learning about these things.
You've been listening to the Jesus Changes Everything podcast, a production of Dunamis Fellowship, the teaching outreach of Dr. R.C. Sproul Jr. If you've enjoyed this podcast, we encourage you to subscribe, which you can do at all the usual outlets, to tell your friends, and to spread the word. To learn more about the work of Dunamis Fellowship, please visit rcsproulJR.com and join us next time on Jesus Changes Everything.